when a spouse dies, what entitles you to his estate, especially when it comes to money in the bank?
If there are no children, then his parents. And if his parents are no more, then his brothers and sisters.
Next of kin basically is somebody you can reach out to in case of emergency.
Yes.
So you don't acquire any right or liability with regards to the person.
She cannot just go in and say, okay, my husband don't go, deal with me, give me the money.
Some women believe I should have the right to keep my name. Why must I change my name to my husband's name? Okay, we're still talking about marriage. And when it comes to marriage, what are those important things that you need to ask before, the important questions you need to ask before you say I do? We all ask about family, about our feelings, about our emotions, but we never talk about the legal implication of saying I do. And that's what we are paying attention to. In our previous episode, we talked about it a lot, so go watch that video. But for now, let's move on to other things like prenup. Prenuptial agreement. So let me start with you. What's a prenuptial agreement, at least so that we will understand what it truly is? Because there's a bit of controversy about what's a prenuptial agreement.
Okay. Prenuptial agreement is just like every other agreement between an intending couple. It's called prenup. Prenuptial. Pre means before. Nuptial is marriage. So before an agreement entered before marriage between two intending couple.
What is the difference between that and just the marriage certificate?
Okay,
it doesn't spell out how you guys are going to live as husband and wife. What is in that agreement?
The kind of marriage that you want to have, or the kind of wedding or joining can be captured in the
prenup. Basically covers everything till you even how do I put it? You even take into account, okay, even if this marriage ends, how do we go about it? So all those things are covered.
I think that's what most people pay attention to when it comes to prenuptial agreement. When this marriage ends, what do we do? I have heard that prenuptial agreements can encompass parents cannot come to our house. There's as in I have heard it can
not look to the appropriate.
But most of the time, prenuptial agreements come into effect when they want to decide how things should be taken care of in case this marriage ends or in case we decide not to marry. So, in your opinion, as a married woman, if your man had provided or presented to you a prenuptial agreement, would you have signed it?
I would have even loved it. I would have loved it if he did. But if my husband presented it, I would have signed it. But I'll be factual and honest. I must pause before I go on. I must think about it. Like, is this what he's thinking? Even as a lawyer, even as a family lawyer. So your emotions must be tested. So it requires a lot of you have to be really logical, and you have to,
because it feels like this man is already thinking about the end of the marriage
before the beginning. But then a prenuptial, because of my exposure, I know a prenuptial agreement is not only about the end of the marriage, but also during the course of the marriage.
Would you advise women to sign it?
Yes, it's advisable.
So you know
it's advisable, but then it's circumstantial as well. I mean, you don't have anything. Your husband does not have anything. But I'm just saying that. But nothing takes away the importance of
I think a lot of people bring up prenup when there is something to save, like maybe the man comes in with some money.
If the man is, if there are special circumstances, like one person is really rich, or you're both very wealthy, or circumstances of your family, there are many circumstances that you maybe from a family where certain things obtain, those are factors that influence whether you take a prenuptial document or not. And yes, those are two crucial. Your assets, who are you really? Those are factors that influence it. However, nothing should prevent or restrict you from having it or from signing it.
If she says she wants you to sign a prenuptial agreement, are you good with that?
Sure. And I don't think people just wake up and say, oh, we'll have prenup. You just start it like joke. Say, babe, what's up? What if we decide to have a prenup? You are building the discussion.
The
you don't
emotions towards that.
You don't just bring up the document and then you throw it, sign prenup.
So you have to be very tactical about it.
You have to, because there's a lot of emotions
involved in that. But you both think it's very sensitive. So both of you think it's a good idea?
It's a very good idea. It helps a lot.
Funny enough, prenup comes in both ways. So you bring yours, I bring mine, then we'll see a synergy between where both of us can work. Yeah.
Interesting. So, but she says if both of you are core members, what are you securing?
You can talk about, we want to have in your agreement now, for example, we can have a joint account, we can set up a trust fund. It fits that will make money and put it in the fund. Yeah. You know, all of those, you can discuss those things and agree on them in the agreement, but in your prenuptial agreement. But
then let's talk about
speaking. It's usually people that have a lot of money that bother about these things.
People that have a lot of money. But then let's talk about property. I think we need to round up a little bit, but this is very important. When you get married, I think this is specifically for the women, men as well. I'm sorry, but I don't know why women have more of this problem. When you get married, assets become an issue. The assets you acquire in the marriage. And a lot of people don't have prenuptial agreements. So for some, as a woman, if you are buying a property or you're acquiring an asset, what is the best way to buy it and what name should you put on it to ensure that if anything happens,
it remains yours?
It remains yours. I'm asking this question as bluntly as possible. I want to start with you. As a woman, I know some people say, what a man, but please, it happens a lot more to women.
Okay, funny enough, our laws regarding this is chivalrous, in the sense that they tend to lean towards the women. Take, for instance, if I buy a property in my wife's name, it's presumed to be a gift from me to her. But if she buys in my name, it's not so. It's presumed I'm holding in trust for her.
Oh.
Yes. So the law leans towards women because they feel they need to be secure,
to be protected
because of the societal norms.
But if you, as a woman, you want to buy a property while you are married, what's the best name to put on it? Your marriage name, your married name, or your maiden name? What would you say is the best?
If you change your name, that becomes your name.
Okay.
So even if the marriage is, like we talked about, is dissolved, it's still your name. It's even if you change your name eventually, it was your name at the time when you acquired that property. So am I free to go on?
No. Yes.
Okay. So the best way to answer the question, as you put it, is to buy your properties in your name, and the man can buy his properties in his name, and you can decide that if we're going to get property C, now that's property A for you, property B for the man, and then you want to get a property for both of you, you can now decide to buy a joint property, not as Mr. and Mrs. Mr. and Mrs. XYZ, but as Mr. XYZ and Mrs. XYZ, because the law does not recognize Mr. and Mrs.
You have to put both your names.
Although when you're interpreting that in equity, the intention comes in.
But why create that
no, it's quite easy. The only problem is that the man may not be there, and even if he's there during divorce, once they see that inscription, Mr. and Mrs., the court will automatically resolve it that this property was bought in the intention of being family property.
What about situations where people buy property in their children's name? Who does it belong to and what do you do with it?
It belongs to the name of the bearer, the name that is born on the title document.
And whoever is maintaining it is presumed also a gift, holding in trust.
Exactly, it's holding it in trust.
And the idea of buying properties, there's this, I think, Married Women Properties Act, permits a woman to buy property in marriage.
Married Women's Properties Act. I think you should go research that.
So you can buy a property. It's actually an inherited law, one of those laws before the independence, 1900. So it permits you as a woman buy property in your name, dispose it, use it whichever you like, without consultation with your husband or whatsoever.
It's a fundamental right to under chapter.
But we know that marriage, they say, two shall become one. So
not when Bese comes. When the two want to go back to being one. My final question right now is, it has to do with the name. You touched on it a little bit. When a woman builds her brand in her husband's name, and for some reason there is divorce, does she still have the right to maintain that name and continue in the personality of that name, with the personality of that name, or is she required to return the name and go back to her maiden name? Can she hold on to it, or does she have to? Because these matters come up, especially a certain celebrity divorced his, rather their marriage ended, and people have been bullying the wife. Return the name, okay? Return the name, okay? But she has built her entire brand in this name. Does she have to return it? Or doesn't she? So a few minutes, let's wrap this up.
She doesn't have to return it. To answer that question, she has the right, to a choice to returning it or keeping it. She's entitled to keeping it, and if she desires to return it, she's not limited in any way from doing that. So legally, under the Matrimonial Causes Act, under the Marriage Act, and all applicable laws in Nigeria, she has every right to keep her name.
Okay, I think the distinction I would draw there is a difference between justification of marriage and this particular one. Justification is where somebody is using
your
someone's name
when the person was never married
to you. So, but this instance where he or she was, she was married, because this is in the Nigerian context. When she was married to you, and then she had built her life around that name, she can keep the name.
Interesting. So you see,
if she was married to you for just a day, she can still keep the name.
As long as she was married.
But funny enough, all the divorce proceedings I've handled, all of them say, just add in the prayers, return, let me be reinstated to my maiden name.
It's really a matter of your choice, but legally you have the right to retain the name.
This has been an intense conversation, and I'm sure that probably a lot of things that we discussed, you probably never heard them before, or for some reason, you never thought of it as that important. They are very important. Nobody wants their marriage to end, but there are situations where they are dilemma, they are controversies, and then some marriages can end. What happens then? These questions need to be asked. So it probably is prudence. It's just wisdom to consult a lawyer individually or as a couple before you actually decide what type of marriage you want to get involved in and what you should do, or if you should even have a prenuptial agreement. Let's have your thoughts about all the conversations that we have had on the comment section, and please subscribe to this page, because the conversations here, as you can see, is Kenke. Thank you so much, Praise. You've been incredible. Franklin, you are awesome. Thank you so much. You have educated me and everybody. My name is Gloria, and we're still doing it right here on Straight to the Point.